Okay, everybody, Vinny Fisher here, back with another episode of Total CEO. Hey guys, before I jump into our show today, I wanted to ask you a big question. Like, do you spend time as the CEO in your business looking at the benefits that are all wrapped in with having a team? Like, there are so many parts to it. One, you're looking at it from a standpoint of what are you offering them to stay there? But more importantly, in addition to that, there's expenses attached to that. And utilization of those benefits is critical. Well, I love this subject so much that we wanted to bring a super huge guest who is an expert in the area of healthcare and the benefits that you provide to your team. So CEOs, we've got a guy who's not only a best-selling author in this kind of stuff, who knows the subject, but I want to first welcome Michael Menerey to the show. Michael, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Vinny. Great to be here.
Awesome. So Michael, you are the creator of Reconstructing Healthcare, and we can find you at reconstructinghealthcare.com. So give us a little soundbite as to, I always love opening up with a big fact. Like, what percentage of cost goes into us providing benefits back to our team?
Well, usually benefits is the second largest expense after payroll. So, you're talking a pretty significant expense for any employer in any industry.
Yeah, that's big. That's like huge. And so with all that said, I always think about the fun about that. Like, here I am, I'm the CEO thinking about our own business going, all right, great. I've got Michael, like, is he going to ask me questions about what our benefit plan is and who, and by the way, we can pick on me and to help other people, but I would tell you, I will always push people back to our COO and our team coordinator who handles all that. And our people love our benefits, but I have absolutely no clue other than as a user as to what they are. And so am I in the norm?
You are in the norm. I think most people are used to having benefits that they use. They don't necessarily think about the actual cost of the benefits unless, they're thinking about their payroll deduction. But, you mentioned what percentage is it that an employer spends, right? It's probably the second fixed cost that you have, but it's one of the only fixed costs that you don't have control over. And as an example, healthcare costs, recent study by the Kaiser Family Foundation, over the last 16 years have risen 221%. Now, what other fixed cost in your business has risen at that rate?
Nothing.
Exactly.
Maybe some advertising spend on algorithmic stuff, but not nearly to that percentage. Nothing like that.
Right. And at least with the advertising spend, you have some control over that.
Right. Some, right. Bidding strategies aside, you're right. You're right. We do. Yeah. We can choose not to go in that direction. If we get rid of our healthcare, we're going to have a serious revolt with our team members.
Well, that's just it. And even if you keep your healthcare, you may still have a revolt from your employees, because what happens is, as healthcare costs rise, a lot of employers don't have the budget to continually pay more. And so what they do is
expensive. I've never, until this recent turn in our business, I've never thought about healthcare. I've always just thought that's a benefit we include, but unbelievable with their last administration, what's going on now, the costs are unbelievably expensive.
Well, and that's just it. And so it's unsustainable in its current, form. And, simply passing off more costs to employees, that's not the answer. If you look at what employees are paying, out of their own pockets just to have the insurance, and then what they're paying on out-of-pocket expenses and deductibles, it's crazy.
All right, we're with Michael Menerey from Reconstructing Healthcare. You can find him at reconstructinghealthcare.com. We got a link for that here in the show. You can grab that. Michael, I get it. It's not for passing on costs to employees. That's not the solution. If that's not the solution, what is?
Great question, and I'm glad you asked. So ultimately, the insurance industry as a whole, they're not coming up with any solutions that are meaningful. It's the same old stuff year in, year out. And so after 15 years in the business, I got tired of delivering, poor results to my clients, and, really started looking into what are the actual root causes that cause healthcare costs to go up year in and year out. And, once you really dial into that and figure it out, it's pretty easy to see that none of the traditional insurance products out there deal with the underlying issues that cause healthcare costs to rise. And
Okay.
so really what an employer has to do is you have to opt out of the traditional fully insured market, self-insure your plan, and you have to work with a broker consultant to actually attack all of the problems that drive costs higher.
All right, now that sounds super complicated. So, here
Of course.
I am. I'm a business owner. I want two things. I want my people to be happy that they have benefits that when they go use them, they feel value for their sharing in the cost of that. And two, I want someone to just straight up help us get that done. I imagine that's what you guys do. That's all wonderful. But like here we are, we're listening on a show. What's advice you would give somebody? You'd give me about dealing with my healthcare plan. I'm talking with Michael. Michael, you wrote a book as well, right? So you got the
Yep.
CEO's Guide to Lowering Healthcare Costs. And can I get that on Amazon, or how do I get it? Do I go to your website? Like, where do I find that?
You can find that book on Amazon. You can also, find links for it on reconstructinghealthcare.com.
All right, cool. Awesome. And so back to the complicated part. As soon as you said, like, there's all these things, you got to have this broker, you got to do that. The CEO in me is like, oh, all right, I'm going to get them connected over to my team coordinator, make sure this gets looked at. But what's advice you'd give? Here you are. You have an audience of CEOs that are listening to you. Give us the roadmap. Even if I know it's simple as we can just contact you, but what's the steps we need to take to really do something serious about this and pull what I think I heard you say, a bunch of the waste or wrong coverage inside of our plan?
Well, let me give you an analogy. So, health insurance today, it's like giving your employees a credit card to go to a restaurant with no prices, right? So they're going to go to the restaurant. The waiter might suggest steak and lobster, the most expensive bottle of wine. And because they're not paying for it, they're going to go for it. Maybe add a little champagne, have the most expensive dessert. And when the bill comes in, maybe they pay the tip. And then they walk out and the bill gets sent to the employer. So that's one of the major problems is there's no connection from the user of healthcare to the actual cost.
Yeah, I get it.
Right. And and part of the problem is there's no price transparency within our system. Like if you wanted to know the cost of an MRI or the cost of your knee surgery before you went into the hospital, you can go and ask for it.
Yeah,
They're not going to tell you.
I just had an MRI done not too long ago, and the whole system is a menu without prices. There is nothing.
Right.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. But here's the thing, like I want to get I own an accounting firm, right? One of our brands is called Fully Accountable, and people only work with us because they need to. They don't necessarily want to. They want a higher level CFO. They want all this stuff, but they don't want me to be like, all right, what you need to do is dig into your financials and go figure this out. Like, it's not what a CEO wants. And so, I'm sitting here listening to this, and I'm sure you run into this all the time. It's like, this all sounds well and good, Michael. I love it. I need to fix my healthcare benefits. But Bud, before I put a bullet in my head, like, show me and tell me what I got to do. So like I'm sure you get that, right? It's not a
absolutely
conversation. And so where would you push a CEO in the first step?
The first step, because what you're saying is the CEO, they want the easy button, right? Just show me what.
Yeah. Show me the easy button. I got people barking down my neck for clients. I got engagements I have to be on. I have 3 speeches to prepare for. Like the 4% savings in tax and all the other stuff barking at me for payroll. And now I got to have a healthcare discussion in light of all the reform that's going on. Feed me, like save me from my own boredom death.
Well, that's exactly what we do. We try to make it easy. And essentially, we try to educate people on what's wrong, why their costs go up, and we give them a prototype model. Here is an alternative model that you can implement that will really address all of these perverse incentives that exist to drive costs higher. And here's the other thing. The model that we put out there, it's not just about, it's not about passing more costs on to your employees. It's actually making employees a partner in helping an organization lower healthcare costs. So if an employee has two options, right? Go to, one place, we'll stick with the MRI example, costs $1,500. And, there's another place down the road that costs $400. Well, you structure the benefit design where if they go to the lower cost, you reward them. And maybe you waive their copay. Maybe you make it free. And same thing with prescription drugs. You got one drug that costs $3,000. There's another drug that does the same thing that costs $500. And you give them tools and incentives to pick the lower cost one. And when they do, you reward them. So actually, there's a way to lower your healthcare costs and actually make the benefits richer for your employees.
That's really cool. So let me ask you a question that, I may not be the best example, but I have a mixture crowd that's vastly in the majority with what the majority is today in workers, and it's millennials. And so my millennial crew is always struggling with, I'm going to live forever. I don't really need health care, and I just want more money in my pocket. And then I have a group of the people in the office who have started their families and have moved up the continuum, and healthcare is critically important. So you make this big statement, you can save healthcare costs by 30%. So how do you make both of those work?
Well, good question.
That's the tough part, right? And then the other corollary question that is, at what size company starts to care about this? Where do you really see the delta that you can see some real significant movement in the cost savings?
Good question. So really the employer threshold is going to be over 100 employees. Over 100 employees, you can really start to look at alternative funding mechanisms, which is, partially self-insuring or self-insuring your health benefits.
All right, so okay, got that. So the big company makes a lot of sense to me. What about like 11 to 50 employee? That's the world I live in. Is that space? Like, and it's, our organization is a little bigger than that, but who we service isn't, right? Unfortunately, it's the 82% mark where we sit, and where most people are employed. What happens there?
That is the small group marketplace, and that is a completely different animal because of the way it's regulated, and it varies state by state. Some states, really they have regulations in place that don't allow an employer to self-insure at that level.
That's where I was going. I'm a lawyer here in Ohio, and I used to do corporate work, and we would go look at this. And the second you were under a certain size, right, just call it the under 50 employee size, all these other things we could talk about went right out the window, because under Ohio's insurance rules, you have to, meet certain criteria to even pull this off. And so for the bigger benefit, what we should say to our audience is, if you want to go down the road of looking at customizing your plan, having some personal ability to do it, you should be above that 50 employee threshold before you even have this discussion.
Yeah, really above the 100 employee threshold.
Even above 100? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And beyond that, again, depending on which state you're in and state regulation, the other options I would recommend employers, that are smaller to look at are, group purchasing options. Is there an option to get together with a bunch of other employers in a similar industry or a similar association and pool your volume of employee lives together, and then try to get some.
Yeah, that's exactly what we did. We had our broker come to us and say, hey, we could go join this like cozy program, and we could group up with a whole bunch of other small group. And it significantly improved our premium without diluting any benefits. And it was really great.
Absolutely.
We're a living testimonial to that works. And so really good. All right, Michael, question. So at this point in the show, I like to move around a little bit. By the way, we're talking about Michael Menerey from Reconstructing Healthcare. You can find him at reconstructinghealthcare.com. Awesome stuff on benefits. And if you're looking to really take a shot at your benefit and also savings, you should hit him up. Go check him out, what he's doing. He's got a great book. Michael, I want to switch gears a little bit. You got your own organization, right? And here we are with CEOs. One of the things that as we grow in a business, we're always working on something, right? So, for me, we're beginning of the year, lots of influx of work for both of our brands. Hardest thing for us could be different right now, but it's not about me. It's about you. What's the hardest thing going on in Reconstructing Healthcare right now for you?
I think the hardest thing, I mean, we're a growth oriented company. We're growing, and with growth comes challenges. And so I think one of the challenges and struggles that we have is recruiting. Recruiting good talented millennials and getting them to stay and grow with us in the organization. I think it's a challenge. Millennials want different things, and they don't necessarily maybe have the patience that older generations do, or the same approaches and attitudes in the workplace. And so just really trying to create a great work environment for millennials where they have certain pathways to grow, because truly they're going to be the next generations of leaders, right, in all of our organizations. And so they bring with them some challenges in that they want different things, they need different things in the workforce than maybe the older generations do.
Yeah, so
I think,
how big is your organization, like in team wise? What do you got? How many guys?
Team wise, in my particular group, we've got about 100 employees.
Okay.
And we're actually part of a larger firm that has approximately 2,700.
Yeah, so you're a big crew. So like getting together with lunch with like 4 other people from another department, it's like dealing with another company, right? It's a big crew. So, it's a whole process. You guys have, I assume, a full-time recruiter on the team, that whole deal?
Yeah, I mean, we have our own operations staff.
Yep.
We are able to work with HR in recruiting, but truth be told, I mean, when it comes to recruiting, especially in our industry, a lot of times it's leveraging your own people, right, and who they know, and to bring in other good folks.
Yeah, I mean, I think the referral by employees has always proved well for us. It's we recommend it. We have a brand total team where we talk about this, some of the gaps in recruiting, what can be done about that. But I think as organizations get bigger, you guys take on other challenges that even some smaller businesses don't have. But you also have some other benefits and how you can fix that. So, yeah, we're big fans of the referral part. People don't like to refer somebody because they don't want to get burned twice. But it's got its downsides too, right? Because people are like, "Hey, my buddy needs a job," so they each have their pros and their cons. So what's winning in the business right now for you?
Quite frankly, we're having good growth. So I think the message that we're putting out in the marketplace is resonating. But I really think one of the challenges that we have is educating the marketplace on the deficiencies in the current model, because I'll tell you what, a lot of people are very happy with the status quo, and not necessarily wanting to look at alternatives, even though it may benefit them and their employees.
Yeah, I mean, really,
so I think that's,
if I don't feel like it's broken, why would I want to pay attention to this, right? Like if I've tolerated the gas prices going up, i.e. the healthcare prices going up, then as long as I'm not hearing from the pregnant moms in the office that everything sucks, why don't I just go on and do something else? Right?
That's it. People have gotten numb to just seeing their costs go up 10% a year, and so it's become the new norm, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was being about as patently honest as I could be, that like there's so many other moving things that I feel like you said I can't even control this. So I feel like I can control so many other moving parts in our business, and soon to be 8-figure companies. We're not small. We're small in the world of the stuff we deal with, but in structure. But yeah, it's just like what part moves, and so it's such a complex thing that it's filled with. So if you want to know more about this, audience, this is a critical subject. First and foremost, I'd encourage you to go get his book about how you can save 30% on your healthcare costs. Go find it right off his site, Reconstructing Healthcare, at reconstructinghealthcare.com. Michael, what's one, I always like to get, when we're nearing the end of the show, like what's the one thing you would encourage the CEO to do? If they did nothing else, this is your go-to move. Go do this.
To be honest, my recommendation is to download the book, because it's short, it's a quick read, but at least that way people have an understanding of the deficiencies in the current system and, how they can be addressed. We do give an example of how one company was able to lower their healthcare costs by 30% in the book. And so it's a roadmap. And so, at least that way people have an idea of how to do it, how to get it done, if that's something that they're interested in.
All right, cool. All right, one final fun one. What's the most effective way that you take prospects to clients? What's working the best for you right now?
Yeah, from a marketing standpoint, one of the most effective things that we're doing, we host live events, throughout the year, and the purpose is twofold. One, to bring our clients together and create a forum where we can create some value for them, and at the same time, we invite prospects to these events as well.
Right.
So it's a great way to get prospective clients in a room with current clients, so that they can talk about their experience working with us, and it's a great way to just create value for people, to bring them together, give them some good content, give them a networking opportunity, and inevitably that leads to relationships and oftentimes new clients down the road. So that's one of the things that's been working.
I'm a big fan of live events. It's one of the things we promote in one of our education parts of our business to people. If you really want to grow your business, do live events. So I'm really glad to hear that, because I think it's intimate in the room. The close gets to be a lot easier because there's an immediacy to it. So I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah. Right. I mean, people buy from people who they know, like, and trust. It's a great way to get to know people and move that process forward.
Yeah, and they're either going to like you or not like you, and you'll know right away, right?
Sure.
So you probably get a little more of the like, I get a little more of the not like, but either way, they both vet out the clients, and so it's good. All right, cool. What's a bit of encouragement you could leave fellow executives with before we end up the show?
Hey, I just want everyone to know that there's hope. I want everyone to know that, if you're feeling stuck, if, healthcare costs are having an adverse impact on your operations, on your profit margin, that there are alternatives out there that you can look at that can significantly lower your costs and actually improve benefits for your employees.
That's awesome. And if you want to know more about that, go check out Michael and their group at reconstructinghealthcare.com. There's some fun stuff they have at /Total CEO. We'll have it all be branded for you guys for the show, but also just getting on the site, download that resource about lowering your healthcare costs. Like, there's legit things. And now, right, Michael, with what's going on with the current administration and funding of the old administration's initiatives, things are changing once again, right?
Yep. Absolutely.
Now's the time to get into this mess. And I'm sure because of all the changes, you guys are busy. And so that's great. We're busy over at our accounting firm because the tax reform is real. And so we get it. And so now's the time. Right. And folks, if your costs aren't going to go down unless you do something about it. So you got to go look. And if you're too busy, get someone else to go look. And one of the things, Michael, we've noticed that we work with a little bit bigger groups as well. And it's not really the CEO we're talking to. They're the one who's a little bit bothered by it, but we found we're talking to typically either the CFO or even someone on the team department who runs it back up the flagpole. I don't know if you've noticed that experience as well, but in our LinkedIn initiative, sometimes we're going after number 2 through number 6, and maybe number 1 is just bothered by something and it gets back to him or her, but we don't start there.
Yeah, that's true. I think a lot of times it's the HR manager or, maybe, office person, operational person who is, managing this. But ultimately, they're not necessarily interested in massive change, right? Even if it may have a financial benefit.
They're going to fight it. And I'll hear from our team person, we have to all fill out forms again. I'm like, and your point? We're going to save 25% and you're bothered about whether we have to go through form fire to fill out all our forms. Like, just make that happen. I totally understand. Well, I guess the reason I brought that up was for everybody, our guests included, is that sometimes when you want a CEO initiative to go through, you're going to have to bite on the heels of someone in that 2 through 10 category to really get the thing started so that ultimately your CEO can sign off on the moving of the iceberg, right?
That's exactly it. And this is, I mean, what we do in this arena, this is about meaningful change, right? And oftentimes the meaningful change is going to be driven at the CEO or the CFO level.
Absolutely.
It's oftentimes not going to be driven, by HR.
No, because they're going to do the work anyway. So in either way, it's a whole bunch of forms being filled out. And so it doesn't sound like a lot of fun. All right, Michael, it's been a blast today. So I really appreciate having you on the show. Thanks for coming.
Vinny, it's been great. Appreciate the time.
All right.